so exciting to be here and to speak to you for a little while about bodies. Now, you work with bodies all the time. You're probably, focused mostly on what's inside the bodies, unless you work with the skin and things. But for most young people, and for a lot of the world, they think about mostly what's on the outside. And so today I want to just zoom out a little bit and to have a little think about and talk through how young people think and feel about their bodies and the sorts of things they do, and to introduce you to some practical tools that you might be able to take back to your work. Some of the things I might talk through might seem a little bit different to the training that you might get in medicine, and I invite you just to stay open and stay curious. Also keep your eyes open. We're going to not close them, not fall asleep today, okay? So I'm Zali. I am a body image researcher. I'm the other kind of doctor, not very useful in a medical emergency on a plane. It actually happened 2 weeks ago. I was on a plane to Perth, and I could see this kid was kind of not doing so well, and then I could see the hostesses like looking through the list and things. I was like, oh no. She comes over to me, she's like, are you a doctor of medicine? And I was like, no, I'm really not helpful to you at all. And she was like, well, there's no one else. What are you a doctor of? And I'm like, oh, I'm a body image researcher, so I, talk to people about how they feel about their bodies. She's like, oh, I think he's fine with that. Yeah, luckily, the kid was fine. He just had a migraine, but if it had been like something more serious, there would have been a problem, because I'm really not helpful in that situation. I have an education background, so I really was very obsessed with figuring out what works to help young people feel better about their bodies in the education setting. And I just thought if I found the one program that was really effective and then put it into every school, then all of our problems would be solved. 10 years later, it turns out that's not the case. But I now work, so I was in research universities for a long time and moved out of that to create a health promotion charity that's more about research translation, because I realised that even though at the end of every journal article I wrote, more research needs to be done in the area, which means give me another grant, people. Even though I wrote that every time, we actually do know stuff that we can go out and tell people. We actually did have some programs. They were just sitting on researchers' shelves. And so I thought, let's get these things out to the places where people can use them. So I work alongside Taran Bromfitt, who is the 2023 Australian of the Year. We actually came together in 2016. I went along, I just had, I've got 3 kids, I just had my twins, and I was very excited to get out of the house and go and see her first film, Embrace. And I went to the cinema with all these other, mostly mums, all also very excited to be out of the house. And we watched this film, and at the end of the film, there was not a single person that hadn't cried. And I just saw the impact of this film that had made people feel things and made people consider their own bodies in a really different way, but also just inspired the hell out of them. And I thought, that film has just done more than all of my theoretically informed 8-week programs that I've ever created. And so I pestered her basically until she would let me do an evaluation of the film, and showed through some research that actually it had improved people's body appreciation, and yet it was something they wanted to go to. Like millions of people, like some crazy number of people around the world have seen this film, and yet they don't want to always come and do our interventions. And so that's what made me think, let's bring the science and the creativity together to create things that people actually want to consume that are going to also be good for them. So we worked together on creating the second film, Embrace Kids, and that was very exciting, very fun, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So we came together because we had this vision for the world where we wanted kids to be free from feeling judgment and shame about their bodies. They can embrace their bodies, they're happy, they're healthy, and they're ready to take on the world. And I'm pretty sure that's kind of similar, I don't know, to what you all are hoping for kids as well, that they're happy and they're healthy, and there's nothing holding them back. So we had this vision, we had a really well-structured plan, and we were, very ambitious, and we thought we're going to reach 1 million Australian kids in 3 years. It was that typical strategic plan, 2023 to 2025, we're going to reach 1 million kids with the Embrace resources and messages. I had a spreadsheet, there was like numbers, all the formulas, everything beautiful. And then this happened. And people often ask whether you know beforehand. You do not know if your colleague is about to win Australian of the Year. So our entire team was sort of watching on TV, also on a Zoom call. I was rocking on the couch. I was like, what is this going to do to my spreadsheet? And then, she was announced as the winner, and it was an incredible moment, of course, an incredible achievement, but it's also been an incredible platform. And so Taryn went on to morning, she was lined up, the media is just, I think she had like 1 hour sleep, and then she had to go from Canberra to Sydney. All the morning shows were on, and here on the ABC News Breakfast, she's like, we're going to reach 1 million Australian children in 1 year. And I was like, thanks for the warning. Went back to my spreadsheet, figured it out. We can do it. Because this is such an incredible platform. And it means that I get to go around and talk to incredible people like yourselves, which has been fabulous. But we do need to do this in 1 year, because this is kind of a big problem. And it's something that got so much worse in COVID, not because of COVID, but around the world, all of the research shows that we had a doubling of people arriving at EDs and hospitals seeking treatment for eating disorders. We've got 77% of young Australian adults in body image distress, and that means they're 24 times more likely to develop depression and anxiety. We've got 33% of girls meeting diagnostic criteria for eating disorders, but they're not all presenting for treatment. They're still out in the community, and it's 12% for boys. And those rates of eating disorders have doubled since 2019 for 5 to 12-year-olds. And when I was, preparing slides and things, well, it can't be 5. Surely they meant 9, or I've just got it wrong. And I went back and checked, and it's 5-year-olds. And so this used to be something that was a high school problem, and now it's a primary school problem. And the stats are quite shocking, but the impact of this is so real and so deep. And the issue does affect girls more than boys, but also trans and gender diverse young people, sexual minorities, and young people who are discriminated against, including those who are in larger bodies. And you can't necessarily tell how a young person feels just by looking at them. So therefore, we need to be really careful in how we speak about bodies, weight, and health with everyone, just in case they're really vulnerable, and just in case something might not land so well with them. So some of you might work in the space of eating disorders. I'm actually not in the eating disorder space. I'm much more at the prevention end and the very early end. But also a lot of us, we're all grown-ups who have walked around the world in bodies for some time. Some of us have felt these things. Some of us have thought these things. And we all have this experience of being in our own bodies as well. So I've spoken a little bit about sort of the connection with eating disorders and mental health, but actually the way kids feel about their bodies impacts, every study that they do to see, is this related to body image? It usually is. So body appreciation, if kids have higher levels of appreciation of their bodies, they're more likely to have positive mental health, they eat more fruits and vegetables, they move their bodies more, they have a more stable weight over time, and they're more likely to do things like wear sunscreen, which is something that I would not have thought would be related. Just on the flip side, kids who are dissatisfied with their bodies are more likely to have depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicidal ideation, less likely to move their bodies because of the shame and the judgment, more likely to have eating disorders and disordered eating, maybe undiagnosed, maybe subclinical, and more likely to use alcohol and other drugs, smoking and vaping. And so once we realised this, we sort of put together this model because we realised everything's affecting each other. And we've kind of created it the body image, called it the body image nexus model. But it's basically saying that if we help young people to feel better about their bodies, then everything else will get better as well. But the misconception is that making people feel shame around their weight is necessary in order to motivate them to engage in health behaviours. And for the past 20, 30 years, all of the health promotion messaging, all of the media messaging that we've had, ever since Norm on the Couch, has really been about making people feel bad in order to try and motivate them to go and do things. And the science is just showing that that's not working. It's not effective. We now have really long-term data showing that body dissatisfaction is actually associated with weight gain over time, not weight loss. And that weighing people and telling people what weight category they're in is more likely to lead to mental health challenges as well as eventual weight gain. So what we say is that supporting people to embrace and appreciate their bodies is the new pathway to positive health behaviours and outcomes. And a lot of the time, I was really focused on programs, I was really focused on what do we need to teach individuals, but there are a whole bunch of things that happen in the settings and spaces that we move into that we need to avoid as well. So this is a slide that I often show to teachers because the school setting is something that can be really problematic for young people. And there's some 2 different studies of when they make case notes for admission for eating disorders, they did content analyses of those, and they found that 14% of young people in each of the 2 studies that were in different places reported that health education and food and nutrition education was a direct trigger for an eating disorder. So I do a lot of work trying to tell teachers, let's not make people do food diaries. Let's not weigh young people so we can teach them how to graph things on a chart, because you can graph other things other than weight. I talk a lot about language. Let's not use good foods and bad foods. That introduces this idea that there's a moral moral way about food. Let's not use images. Particularly images of really thin people or images of people with eating disorders is not going to scare young people away from having one. So these are some of the things you might be able to advocate for avoiding if you get to talk to teachers, but it's also some of the things that you can communicate to parents. What we're doing is hoping to work across all of these different levels, so providing things for young people themselves, but then also working in all of those places where young people live, learn and play, to educate the professionals and the parents that sit around them and support them. And then of course advocating for policy and research. So we've got 9 different initiatives that are happening this year, and these are just a few of them, but I really wanted to show you because as super busy people, you may not have had a chance to see the Embrace Kids film, so I really wanted to introduce you to the trailer just so that you can see what it's about. This is available on streaming services now, so you can go and watch it, but here's the little text.
I'm Taran. 10 years ago, I began a global movement to help people embrace their bodies. But people younger and younger don't like their bodies.
I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough.
Because in the media, no one's really like me.
And I am determined to do something about it. We're not born hating our bodies. It's something the world teaches us.
They teach us via the magazines, via social media, we are broken. I thought just quickly edit that.
If I'm going up against the world's most powerful superheroes and influencers, I'm going to need some help. Together, they're going to help me understand this issue and find solutions before it's too late.
My friends and I would compare how many followers or likes we have, and it's just upsetting.
I got a lot of hate for dancing, and if a guy wants to do ballet, oh, that's so gay of him.
It needs to change.
I have autism. I get sad sometimes. People spit at me.
I got bullied for wearing a scarf, and I felt so angry. They say it's just a joke, but it's not.
Like, I nearly quit.
Kids want to embrace themselves for who they are.
No one has ever made a change by fitting in. They made a difference because they decided to be who they are.
I just like being different because I love my body, and also I'm still very handsome.
To think finally the world is getting it.
It feels good to be seen.
We have to remember that we have the power.
We get to choose how we feel about our bodies.
You only live once. One life. Use it.
I had a lightning bolt moment.
It resembles a superhero.
It makes me me.
Know thyself, love thyself, and dance.
No one else can do you the way you can do you. No one else can do me. Tell you now.
It's kind of taught me that I need to be more accepting of me.
So this film has really opened up a conversation, and what we found from going around doing Q&A screenings with people all over the country was that this was something, like, we couldn't stop the kids from asking questions. I thought, oh, maybe they won't have anything to ask. They were just like this the whole time, because there was something for everyone in the film, and it does cover a lot of different topics. And we're doing a pilot evaluation of the film, and we're finding that it does actually improve scores for young people on their body appreciation, functionality appreciation, and their self-compassion, which is really important. And that was for kids and adults, actually. It kind of helped heal some people's inner child, I think. The first question all the parents asked when we were doing these Q&A screenings was like, how are you getting this into schools, because we want it to be everywhere. And so we've put it into a classroom program where we've broken the film up into little pieces, made it so that teachers press play, they don't have to do any other training, they just have all of the evidence-based activities to go along with it. But hopefully this is something that means we can get it into primary schools in year 5 and 6 and into year 7 and 8 as well. If you want to direct people to somewhere, our resource page is the Embrace Hub, and that's where you can get lots of blog pieces and resources, printables and things for young people as well. Everything that we have is based on these 4 key messages that I've distilled down from 40 years of literature. Didn't take long at all to create 4 dot points. But these are also key messages that then, if you find yourself in a situation where you have to have a conversation about body image, if you can remember any of these 4 things and talk about them, then it's going to be helpful. Because all we need to do is encourage young people to celebrate the diversity of the world, and therefore recognise that they are a special part of all of the different people that are around. We need to encourage them to focus on the functionality of their body instead of what's on the outside. Because the more you can appreciate what your body does for you, the less you treat it like an object that's on a shelf that needs to be, look a certain way, and the more that you can just focus on going out and enjoying it and seeing the world. Being kind to yourself is so important, and there's so much research now showing that self-compassion is just so linked to all of the positive mental health benefits and to positive body image as well. And to recognise real role models, and this is kind of our way to kind of talk to young people about social media without beating them over the head about social media. It's to encourage them to curate their feeds, to follow the people that are doing things, not just looking a certain way, and to encourage them to follow and look at and expose themselves to content that might be not about bodies, because we know that when young people are, there was actually a study where they showed young people landscapes, that was fine. If they're looking on Instagram, I personally look at a lot of like Italian real estate, fine for body image. All of social media is not the problem, it's kind of what you're looking at the time. And so if it's less appearance related content, it's okay. I'm not going to buy one, it's okay. They've gone up in prices, it's unaffordable now. But look to those real role models that are doing things rather than just following people because of how they look. And the way that we're getting all of this out to people is through the Embrace Kids Support Squad. So this is where we're encouraging parents and educators to sign up, and then they can access and get sent all of the resources for free first, because as busy parents, we know that things have to come to us sometimes. So thank you so much. I really loved the way you've actually laughed at my jokes, so really appreciate that. And please do connect if there's anything that we can work together on, ways we can support each other. Thank you.